Welcome back to College Football Pick'em Pod. A little bit late this week, but we're still here. We have the picks. Bowling Green has already lost. I checked at halftime, and that was one of the picks I had and I wanted, but we didn't get this podcast done in time. So that's
17-point
sucks.
dogs. They lost by 41.
I know, dude. And that was one I had 20 on. That was one I was like, I had circled that. They're back in action. They had the bye last week, and that doesn't even count towards our season's card. Can we add that? I would have had 20
absolutely.
on it. We
both had
all
it.
season. It's not like either of us wouldn't have made that play at 17 points. That's a joke. It's like Bowling Green took a bye and the line makers forgot how miserable they've been. They also got that win against Akron. I took them to cover that. So I'm all over Bowling Green. It sucks we didn't get this out in time.
We're counting it.
If I'm keeping my record of bets just for myself, that is a bet I would have had 20 on. And so let's keep it in.
I'm going to do 15 on it, so I'm not as obnoxious. But I did look at it this morning, 15. And I wrote it down 15. On my thing, not realizing that we weren't going to get it in time.
But I also, whenever I've bet Bowling Green, I've put 20 on it. And maybe not when they were the favorites, because that's a little risky. But every other time, I'm pretty sure I've locked in 20. Give me 15, though. That's fine. I just that was a bummer that we weren't able to get this out. I have the games I like. I don't necessarily have how much I want to put on each game. I can't even give you a total of what I'm looking at. Last week I went 7-4, and if you don't include the Miami game, which Phil and I basically were fading Miami in hopes that they would win, because when we fade them, they win. And guess what? Miami looked really good last week.
Best they've looked all year.
Best they've looked against a Louisville team that I do think is talented. So I'm coming off three weeks in a row with over 500, and neither of them have even been I went 7-5, 7-5, 7-4.
Can I just say
I'm really looking up right now, and if we're locking in this Bowling Green, I'm now over $300 on the season.
I just have to say that I've had a terrible year, and last week I went 6-1. And oh, did it feel so good. My only loss was the under on the Maryland-Ohio State game, and the only
Miami, but I guess we're not counting.
I'm not counting that, because I've said I am picking against Miami again this week. That's it. So I always do. I can't help it. I have to. So
we still need to discuss the line.
No, we discussed the line, but I am always going to pick.
There's no reason for us not to break the curse and have us lose, I guess.
We looked so good this week, and honestly, if we look like that every game next year, we'll look good. We don't play this week. That's the beauty of it. We're off. We don't play till FLU.
I was just going to say,
I don't even need to do it.
I'm very, very much I was scrambling, wait, what is the Miami line? Because I do not have it.
I just panicked too.
Sure I didn't see it. I was what are you talking about? I was I'm pretty sure we have a bye, but now you're saying you're on it. I'm like, did I get my schedule wrong?
Well, that's just how little. I knew we played FIU, and it's next week, but that's how little I'm even paying attention to the line. I just know I'm going to take against Miami, because since I've done that, we have won every game. We've won every game that I fade them. The only game that we ended up losing was when I took them over Georgia Tech. I took the spread, and Miami lost that game.
Yeah, I was on Miami too, and I said that was more of a fade Georgia Tech play. So yeah, you went 6-1. Then that means I went 7-3 if we're not counting Miami.
Yeah, you went 7-3. No, I went 6-1. I had Iowa plus 8.5. I had Ohio State minus 42.5. Like I said, I had the under in the Ohio State Maryland game.
I was on both of those with you.
Yeah, and then the Maryland game would have went under, but Maryland scored a touchdown on a fluke thing. And once they scored a touchdown, Ohio State was like, okay, now we're just going to run up the score on you. Because up until then, going into the fourth quarter, going into the end of the third quarter, there weren't that many points. And it seemed like Ohio State was slowing down. And then Maryland scored, and Ohio State was like, screw you. I had Minnesota plus 7. Who'd you have in that game, Will?
I had Penn State minus 6.5. And boy, oh boy, did I get that game wrong. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that game. That was a great game. Great showing by Minnesota. I'm all over the place here. I also had the under in that, under 48. That was gone pretty quickly. Look, that was a serious win. And I said last week, I was like, either Minnesota got really, really good coincidentally at the same time where they played nobody in their first 8 games, or they're going to get blown out by Penn State. And somehow it's the first option.
Yeah.
Somehow
and that's what I said to you. The biggest game they've had since 1998 at home. Like, of course they're going to get hyped for that.
But it wasn't – that's the thing. Watching the game, it didn't even look like it was – obviously they were hyped. Obviously the stadium was nuts. PJ Fleck was going crazy, got them to play. But that can get you through a quarter. That can get you through a half. They dominated Penn State. Penn State, I texted you in the first quarter, like, I think, at the end of the first quarter, I was like, Penn State is going to find a way to claw back into this game. And as I kept watching, it was clear that Penn State could not stop Minnesota and that they really couldn't move the ball against Minnesota's defense. This wasn't a big-time game fluke. It really felt like, just watching it, Minnesota was better on all facets of this game, and maybe Penn State wasn't really giving Minnesota enough credit. That's possible, and I think Penn State's still a good team, but this was an all-around beatdown from Minnesota, which I was not at all expecting. Obviously, I wasn't, because I took Penn State as a 6.5 point favorite, but man, it's one of those things where, Minnesota hasn't played anybody, so I guess we don't know if they're good, because we don't have any information. So I
want to talk to this.
I fell right into that one. We'll get into both, Penn State's game and Minnesota's game coming up, I imagine.
Yeah, and I just want to bring up as well, we saw very similar things here with this game and the LSU game. LSU versus Bama, where LSU really took it to Alabama. And what I despise about sports media is Minnesota beat down Penn State. LSU won a thriller over Alabama. The word thriller has been thrown around so much. Now go watch the San Francisco 49ers play the Seattle Seahawks on
a thriller.
Monday Night Football. That's a thriller. That's a thrilling football game, back and forth, comebacks, all this stuff. The closest Alabama got was 6 points, and every time they got within 6, LSU scored a touchdown to go up again. And the only reason that Alabama lost the game by 6 or 5, whatever it was, 46-41, the only reason they lost by that much is because Tua threw a Hail Mary that was 80 yards, and they scored with 1:30 left. If LSU doesn't give up that touchdown, they win by 2 scores. And I hate that we're acting like Alabama played well this week. Alabama looked like trash. They were garbage. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can't help it, everybody.
I agree. It's incredible. And I don't Minnesota has a better win than Alabama. And
they're
State,
not ranked in the top.
They should be ranked higher. It's like, what logic are they using? They don't have a consistent way of ranking teams. And of course, this will all get sorted out. I don't think Minnesota is actually a better team than Alabama, but you have no other, you can't rank Alabama ahead of Minnesota based on the criteria that they're saying they base the rankings on.
Alabama's best win is over A&M,
who's not even that good this year.
They're not even good. They're not even ranked.
Arkansas. They've beaten 2 teams with winning records.
And then they come out and they're losing 33-13 at halftime to LSU. And I don't care that they came back. They still never really threatened LSU. Did they ever have the ball down 1 score? I don't believe they did. And so for Minnesota to come into this ranking, what are they, number 8? I think they're number 8. And Alabama's number 5. That's a joke.
But I mean, Minnesota should also be above Utah. It should be above Oregon.
They should be above Georgia. They should be number 4.
They should be above Georgia. Yeah,
they just beat the number 4 team in the country. Why aren't they number 4?
Georgia being number 4 is an absolute joke.
They're going to lose.
I don't think the committee watches the games. Like if you've watched Georgia play, there's no way you think they're number 4 in the country.
Well, they were watching college basketball because they were probably watching the big first 4 games, and then Kentucky lost to Evansville the other night. Any shot I can take at Kentucky basketball just feels good. So Kentucky lost to Evansville the other night. That's probably what they're watching. They don't have time to watch these games. There's too many games on. They don't have time. Like, all anybody looks at with that Alabama game is the final score. And we're being told that was a close game and that it was an instant classic. There's nothing classic about that game. The only thing classic is how good Joe Burrow is.
Yeah. Best player in the country. Heisman.
Absolutely. He might be the number 1 overall pick, too, with Chase Young not being allowed to play now because the NCAA is psycho. But,
yeah.
That's how it works.
Anyway, finish recapping your picks, and because I like to recap thoroughly when we have good weeks. And we have had good weeks.
We were both on Purdue minus 1.5, hitting the game-winning field goal as time expired.
We were both on it. You hopped on it with me.
I
just want to
did.
make that clear.
Yes.
You wanna
FSU.
hop on?
I had FSU plus 2.5. Crushed that one. I mean, they killed Boston College. They were losing for a little bit there, and then they ended up killing them. Those are all my bets. That was it. I only had those games. I went light last week. I'm probably going to go light this week. I wrote down a lot of ones that I like, and I'm going to end up cutting some as we go here.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where to go, but I'll recap mine. Like I said, I was on those with you. Iowa +8, Ohio State -42.5. I lost the Penn State -6.5. Lost the Penn State Minnesota under, but I hit Purdue. I hit Illinois +14.5. They won outright. I had 20 on that. That was a big one. Big one. They came back all the way in the fourth quarter. I had Cincinnati -35, Clemson -32. Those were nice covers. And then LSU, of course, taking care of business. Had them +6.5. Had 20 on that, but they went outright also. So we're looking really good. Let's get into this week's picks. Where do we want to start?
I want to start on a Thursday night game. We obviously will. We'll talk about this game. I don't want to talk about it yet, but we have our Super Bowl this week, and I need everybody to know that we will be discussing our Super Bowl very thoroughly this week. And for anybody who follows us, you know what our Super Bowl is. I'm not going to say it yet, but we will discuss it thoroughly. But I want to start with the Thursday night game. We got UNC going to Pittsburgh. Thursday night, 8 p.m., ESPN. I got UNC +4. I like them here in this spot. Pittsburgh really just has not looked good since that Miami game. They've been kind of all over the place. And so, Pitt last week, they beat Georgia Tech 20-10. And I know Miami game is 2 weeks ago. But they didn't look that good against Syracuse before that. They didn't look that good against Duke. They didn't look good against –
Pitt's games are pretty close.
They're all close.
Getting points is always going to help you out.
And UNC's been pretty good this year. They lost by 7 to Virginia this past week. Miami needs UNC to win this game, I believe, for the division. Not that we're going to win the Coastal anyway. We need way too much to happen. But just to keep hope alive, I believe we need UNC to beat Pittsburgh this week and then Pittsburgh to there's so many scenarios. But I do think that this is a good spot for UNC. They're 4-5. They're a little bit desperate to get another win. They've had a good year, but they want to get a bowl here. And I think that Pittsburgh's already accomplished what they need to. They're 6-3. They have it. They could still win the Coastal, but I think this is a great slip-up spot. This is what Pittsburgh does. They play teams that they shouldn't play close, and then that team pulls it out at the end. So I like UNC at +4 here. I only have 10 on it, but I feel like getting anything more than a field goal in a Pittsburgh game, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah, I like your thinking. The Coastal is such a tough one to crack, and I don't really want to, especially on like a short week for both these teams. Who knows what could happen? Like any outcome of this game would not be surprising. Like a UNC blowout, very much in the cards. A Pitt blowout, probably not as much in the cards, but definitely possible. They're at home, and UNC's on the short week. I don't want to touch this game. That's all I can say.
All right, man. I don't have anything else on Friday night. That's for sure. Where you want to go to Saturday games?
Sure, let's go to Saturday with a noon kickoff. Coming off their first loss of the season, we have Alabama here. I don't know why this number is as low as it is. Maybe they're like resting Tua, but even if they do, Tua didn't play in the Arkansas game, and they won 48-7. So this is at 17.5. They're going on the road to play Mississippi State, but Mississippi State has really done nothing all season long. So I love Alabama here, especially coming after a loss. Nick Saban is going to have these boys fired up. You know how he gets. So I've got 20 on this. I mean,
Absolutely.
Like I said, I don't have my dollar amounts planned out, but this is one that jumped off the page to me because Alabama is a team that likes to blow teams out, especially coming off a loss, and especially against a Mississippi State team that just isn't very good. So they've lost. They beat Arkansas, but before that, they had lost 4 games in a row. They lost to Tennessee. They put up 10 points on Tennessee.
Yeah, I love this one. I'm all in on it. I think that they are a team, because they're number 5, they do realize that one slip up is all it takes to get into the top 4. I don't think that there's any way that Alabama finishes this season in the top 4. Assuming
there's lots of ways.
No, well, listen to me. I said assuming I was getting there, but then you jumped. Assuming Ohio State goes undefeated, Clemson goes undefeated, and LSU goes undefeated, there's no way Alabama can get into the top 4 if there's a one-loss Pac-12 champion or a one-loss Big 12 champion, because that would just be a joke, and it's time to move on from this Alabama bullshit, because Alabama has not beaten anybody this year. And like, I'm not saying this trying to be an Alabama hater. It's just they haven't beaten anybody this year. That being said, I think they come out. I think they kick the crap out of Mississippi State this week. Yeah, Saban's just going to have them so fired up. And they need this. They know that the only way – it's exactly what Clemson did. You called it. You said if they end up not in the top 4, it's the lock of the week. And they destroy – it was 28-0 in the first quarter against NC State. And I think that's exactly what happens this week with Alabama.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, when you're number 5, you're sitting one spot out of that, that top 4 precious number that you need to be in. So, yeah, and I'm talking about Mississippi State here as being like a team that hasn't done all that much. Even if this were like a middling SEC team, like even if it were Texas A&M or South Carolina that has proven it can play in some of these big games, I would still like this. So the fact that it's Mississippi State and a team that just isn't impressive really whatsoever, that's why I've got $20 on it. I think this is an absolute lock.
I have a lot of favorites at 12. I have a lot of favorites, and I got a lot of $20 favorites.
I've got favorites early, and then as the day progresses, as we get later into Saturday, I tend to go more underdog.
Agreed. And the other one that I have here, I have Florida -7. I got 20 on that, playing against Missouri in Missouri.
Wow.
Why is that a wow? Tell me why that's a wow. What am I missing?
Well, the fact that you have 20 on it is the wow. I definitely lean with you on the -7. Missouri has shown that it can at least fight a little bit harder than a team like Mississippi State. And Florida also has been a team that I feel like, I don't know, they have a really good defense, and keeping games close kind of has been their MO a little bit too.
When has Missouri shown that they can play well? When they were favored by 21.5 over Vanderbilt and lost. When they were favored by 9.5 over Kentucky and lost by 22. Last week they lose 27-0 to Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, even more reason for them to get things right here.
No way. They can't get things right. They're terrible.
I don't know if they're terrible. They're at home now. I mean, when they're at home, they're 4-1 against the spread, and when they're away, they're 0-3 against the spread. It's just they're a different team when they play at home. They get blown out on the road. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Southeast Missouri, Southeast Mississippi, West Virginia, Troy. I don't like it, man. I think it's too easy. I think Florida's too easy. 20. It's a -7. I think it's so easy.
That's fine. I mean, that's probably the right play. I consider this, but I'll let you have this one. Can we go back to Alabama, though? Because I really do feel like they're going to end up in the top 4 if I had to bet on it. Just because you saying that is a lot that has to go right. Like, if Clemson loses a game, which I really don't think they will, they're done. Ohio State is going to have they still have Michigan, and they still have to play Minnesota, probably. So
imagine Minnesota versus Ohio State, both undefeated.
I mean,
and Alabama sits home again on championship weekend and doesn't play, and they're just like, "Ooh, we're just going to go into the top 4. This is going to be so much fun." I hate Alabama.
And then you look at the Big 12, like getting a one-loss champ out of the Big 12. I don't think it's as easy as you make it think, because Oklahoma has to play Baylor this weekend, and then maybe we'll have to play them in a conference championship game. So playing a team twice and beating them twice is difficult, especially Oklahoma has shown that it is very vulnerable. Almost lost to Iowa State this past weekend. If Iowa State just kicks the extra point, I mean, that goes to overtime, and it's whoever's game. I mean, that's not a team. It's not like we can just assume that the Big 12 is going to have a one-loss champion. And then if you look at the Pac-12, I worry that if Utah drops a game or Oregon drops a game, that decreases the value of that win for whoever becomes conference champion, assuming they win out. Let's just say Oregon wins out, but Utah drops a game, then they would have beaten Utah, who's now not ranked as highly. And especially if we're looking at Oregon, they lost to Auburn, who's a common opponent of Alabama. And if Alabama does end up winning out, they will have beaten Auburn. And that's going to be a case where they could say, well, Alabama played Auburn, Oregon.
Alabama played the toughest schedule in the entire country, and they beat Auburn. And
no, I'm just
good
saying,
wins,
like,
Auburn and Arkansas.
I'm just saying, like, there's so many ways you could rationalize Alabama getting in. Obviously, I don't agree with that, especially if Oregon, if that's the argument used for Oregon not to get in, then you're just incentivizing every single team not to schedule any interesting games out of the conference. Like, you can't incentivize Oregon because look, if Oregon had scheduled Duke, which is one of Alabama's out of conference opponents this season, instead of Auburn, Oregon's undefeated right now, and they're in the top 4. So. And then we're not even having this conversation. So we can't disincentivize teams for scheduling fun out of conference games. Anyway, let's move on from that. I like your Florida pick. I'm not on it.
That's fine. I also have Penn State, and you're probably not going to like this one. And I got 15 on Penn State minus 14.5.
That's fine. I mean, Penn State just worries me for how, like I said, how handedly they got beat. But come on, give me a reasoning.
Well, here's my reasoning, and it's more against Indiana. And I've been getting a lot of crap from people because I said Indiana was just a lock to not win 6 games. And here they are, 7-2. They're ranked. I mean, they're, everybody's all over Indiana. I think that what this really comes down to this year is there's 3 good teams in the Big Ten. There's 2 okay teams in the Big Ten, and everybody else is trash. Like, you have Michigan or Minnesota, Ohio State, and Penn State. They're all really good.
What about Minnesota?
I said Minnesota. Minnesota.
Oh,
yeah. You thought I said Michigan. Maybe I did say Michigan. And then I think your next tier. I think Michigan and Wisconsin are kind of on your next tier. Iowa's kind of hovering there. I think everybody else after that is terrible. They're just really bad football.
I think that's why it's pretty easy to bottom feed in this conference, and
that's what Indiana has done.
Yes, and what Minnesota kind of has done also.
But Minnesota did beat Penn State. When I look at Indiana, they lost to Michigan State, which we now know is like kind of a bad loss because Michigan State's bad. They beat Rutgers 35-0. Congratulations, you got your bye week. They beat Maryland by 6. We've seen how bad Maryland is. They beat Maryland by 6. They beat Nebraska by 7. We've seen how bad Nebraska is. They killed Northwestern not this weekend, the weekend before, 34-3. So they are coming off a bye,
and Michael Penix Jr. is playing this weekend, I think.
Playing this weekend, but there's no quality wins here, and Penn State's coming off a loss, and they're another one. They have 1 loss, but they know who's up for Penn State? Who's next on Penn State's schedule after this?
I'm not sure.
Hang on, I got to look this up. But Penn State plays Ohio State next weekend.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
and they know.
I mean, that's why. I mean,
I wanted to make sure I was right.
Even Ohio State going undefeated. That's such a. I mean, they've got a tough road ahead. And look, I think Penn State is a better team than Indiana, but 14.5, and it's at 15 some places. Man, that is tough. Especially what I was on, and that's why I took the under last week. Is that Penn State? They don't need to blow teams out. They can get a small lead and sit on it. They beat Michigan 28-21. That game went a little bit differently than how the score sounds, but they beat Iowa 17-12. They beat Pittsburgh 17-10. They're usually, and that's why I was so surprised by their performance in the Minnesota game, they're usually okay, sitting on a 10-point lead. That's something that bothers them. They're comfortable running the clock out. So I fear that 14.5 is just a lot of points where they could be up 2 touchdowns and just sit on it. They've shown that's what they like to do. So I think this is quite a risky play. And from an Indiana team that has shown that it is, it's not going to lay down. It's not a win you can just check off and say, all right, that's a win. Because they've won 7 games. They're 7-2, and that means something.
Penn State is looking at this as they just lost last week. They know that they can still
get up. I know.
Yeah, you can still get into the playoff. You kill Indiana, and then you go into Ohio State. You got to win that game. And I think they kill Indiana this week. I really do. I think they're going to beat them really bad. I think they have to. I think they're good enough to. I think that's the most important part. There's a thing between you have to win this game by a lot, but I think they're good enough to win this game by a lot. So I like Penn State in this spot.
Yeah, man, and I don't know. It's also like the book is out on how to defend them and how to score on them. Like Minnesota just put out a game plan on how to play Penn State, and Indiana is going to be studying that like its final season. And I worry about it. Anyway, let's keep it in. I love the Big 12. They're always at noon. It's Big Noon on Fox. I mean, these games are always at noon. I feel like I start out every single one of these podcasts, or I mean, in the Big Ten. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Big Ten at 12.
Well, I have this one with you.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan is blowing out Michigan State.
This is going to be a joke. This is not a rivalry game this year.
I've got 20 on this. Sign me up for 20.
Dude, this is crazy. I really am starting to worry with how much we're kind of agreeing on this.
I didn't agree with you on the last one.
You didn't agree with me on that one. You agreed with me on Florida. You just said you weren't going to bet it. We agreed on Alabama. Now we're agreeing on this one.
This is just a Michigan State team that is checked out. They've got so many injuries. They've got so little to play for. Their coach is going to get fired imminently, probably whenever the season ends. It doesn't make sense to do it in the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They're 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 games. Like, this team is not doing anything. And then Michigan on the other side, like, they're 7-2 right now. They're not gonna, they're not in the playoff conversation. But going 10-2 and getting a New Year's Six bowl, that's not a completely a failure of a season. And I know Michigan fans will probably disagree, but their season isn't over. They're still playing for at least something, and Michigan is heading in one direction, and Michigan State is heading in the entire opposite direction. So I've got 20 on this.
Yeah, I got 20.
Minus 13.5. Like,
yeah,
that
under the key number.
Great number. It's such a great number.
Huge under the key number. I agree with everything you just said. I don't really have much else to say. I 20 on it. I think it's a joke. Do you have anything else at noon, or I have the next game I have is the Navy.
I have a scary
at Notre
stat. Scary stat.
Go ahead.
Michigan State is 10-1 against spread in their last 11 meetings against Michigan.
Yeah, because they're normally good.
Yeah, I think we can toss that one out. These two teams are just on different.
And look what Miami and Florida State did this year. Normally they play one possession games, and this year Miami beat the crap out of Florida State.
True, it's a good point.
Anybody remember that? I remember that. But next game I have is Navy going to Notre Dame, which is a surprise ranked matchup. It's at Notre Dame.
Very, very surprising, and I imagine we're on the same side here. We're just
rolling
through this. Is this too easy? Are we gonna go undefeated, or are we gonna go like?
Are we on the same side on this one? I have Navy.
No, you don't.
I do.
Ugh,
I only have 10 on it.
I have 20 on this.
Wow,
Notre Dame. I have
okay.
7.
All right. All right. Let's see it. I got 10 on Navy. You got 20 on Notre Dame.
Let me give you a quiz. Name the Power 5 teams that Navy's played this year.
I don't know. They've played. Let me see. They've played none.
None. Like,
the Notre Dame's not a Power 5 team.
They're 7-1, and they've played. I mean, I don't know. This one to me is people kind of looking at Notre Dame and saying, "Oh, they're not as good as we thought." That may be true, and that is true. They're not as good as we thought. They're not a top 10 team, but Navy is not a top 25 team.
Well, let me tell you this though. Well, since we were throwing around against
Notre
the
Dame
spread
at
numbers,
home.
No, Navy is 10-2 against their spread in their last 12 games. But more important than that, and they play Notre Dame every year.
Team in their past
do they play? But do they play Notre Dame every year? What are they? It's almost every year, right? They play Notre Dame every year.
It's every year.
Every year they play every single season.
Okay.
In the last 10 meetings, Navy is 7-3 against the spread, but 3-7 straight up. And I think this is another situation where they lose the game, but they cover the spread. And I'm getting it at the key number, and I like that because this has 28-21 written on it. That's why I'm only putting 10 on it.
I'm seeing a -7, so you can take +7. You can take +7.5. It's at that at Bet Online.
No, I have it as +7.
I mean, you can take 7.5 if you want it.
I don't want to. I want it at 7. I'll push. That's fine with me.
This is why you're having a rough season. I'm offering you +7.5, and you're declining.
All right, I'll take +7.5. Thanks, Bucky.
So what? And I'm saying I'm taking it at that. I'm just saying I'm seeing it at that. Whatever, like the covering from Navy against the spreads in their past games, the spreads have been much higher. This is only at 7 because Notre Dame. Everyone's like thought on Notre Dame is that they're this is a throwaway season.
You want to hear a fun one, Will?
Go
the
for
last
it.
time Notre Dame was favored by 7 Navy won 28-27.
When was that? And who cares? How is that relevant?
2016. That's 3 years ago.
How is that relevant?
Similar classmen still there.
Notre Dame is going to roll in this game.
Yeah, you're betting like the public on this one, buddy.
No, it's 54% Navy right now.
You're betting on the public. Yeah, 54% public.
On Navy.
Oh, well, you're betting like the public, buddy.
No, I'm literally not. You literally are. You are literally taking the public side. I am saying Notre Dame. Like, I've got 20 on this. You only have to. I'm telling you, this is such a joke of a line based on Navy being 7-1, even though they haven't played anybody, in Notre Dame losing to Michigan. Like, that's it.
Give me 100 on it, baby. Here we go. I'm just kidding.
Like, Notre Dame's last game, they beat Duke 38-7, and Duke is obviously not a great team, but not a team that is that easy to go on the road and blow out and beat by 31 points. I mean, Duke's better than Navy, right? Like, would you pick Duke or Navy in a game?
Oh, I pick Navy, 100%.
100%.
100%. 100%.
All right.
Did you get that on the pier? 100%.
100%.
So far you have 4 bets and they're all 20.
I mean, I'm feeling good. I don't know what else to say. This might be just a spread 'em week. I haven't really, I guess because when I make my point and talk about it, I feel so emphatic and so enthused, and I want to be confident in my picks, which leads me to be like, yeah, hell yeah, 20, when I haven't really thought out the concerns. This one, though, for sure, it is.
I like your reaction of like, no, you're not. No, I am. No, you're not.
For which one?
When I said that I was on Navy, you're just like, no, you're not.
Oh, no, you're not. That's dumb. Don't listen to Phil, people.
Don't listen to Phil. Hey, I'm going to lose him.
With Bowling Green cashing, I've turned my $200 into $300. So
I love that. All right. Well, also, I mean, there's a lot of top 25 matchups this week, and I don't know if that's just purposely because that's what the College Football Playoff Committee did. What another one I have is the Auburn-Georgia game.
Yeah.
And I got 2 bets on this one. And Will's probably going to call me an idiot, but 62% of money is on Georgia, so I'm not the public, baby. I have 15 on Auburn, and I also think that this is a good money line spot. So I'm also putting 10 on the money line just because it's under the 2.5. So I'm like, I'll put 15 on there, and I'm just going to do 10 on that. But I think Auburn's going to win this game, man. Georgia's got ranked for really doing nothing last week, like just beating Missouri. Like they beat Missouri and now they're number 4.
Like, and what are Georgia's wins even? Like Florida and Notre Dame? Like, that's it.
That's it. And if you look at Auburn,
in a home loss to South Carolina.
And Auburn almost had LSU. You know, they didn't cover against Florida, which was a rough one for you and me. Like, Auburn hasn't really beaten anybody either, except for Oregon. And, like, I think the Oregon wins better. And Auburn always seems to be in their games where, you know, obviously Georgia has been in their games too, but they haven't really played anybody. I don't know. I like Auburn here. I'm doubling up on it. So I'm doing 15 on Auburn plus 2.5, and I'm doing 10 on the money
line. I'm like debating whether I want to play this game. I'll save this one. I mean, I'll give you my take. I really do think Georgia wins this game, and I think they win it pretty easily. And here is why. Auburn can hang in games when they're playing an okay to bad defense. That's really because their defense keeps them in games. And the reason they lost to Florida wasn't because of their defense. I've said this a ton on this podcast. I think Auburn's defense is one of the best units in college football. I think Georgia's defense is better than Auburn's defense. And I think Georgia defensively is going to give Bo Nix so many problems, especially up front. I just really worried about Auburn's scoring. I think the under is something you could look at. It is really low at 4.5, so I'm going to stay away. I would lean Georgia probably wins this by 10 points. I really call it public, call it what you want. I can't imagine a game where Auburn is having its way on offense, and it's going to take some magic at Jordan Hare to really pull off this win. Maybe a kick 6 or something of that nature, because Georgia's defense is suffocating. And they haven't, like, we rip on Georgia, and I just ripped on Georgia, and how are they number 4, whatever. I mean, yeah, they play Missouri 27-0, and beating Missouri by 27 points, nothing to be proud of. But the 0 is what you look at there. Their offense has struggled. I think Jake Fromm has been underwhelming, to say the least. But that 0 is important. They play
You're
Kentucky 21-0. They Tennessee 14 points they gave up. Notre Dame, they gave up 17 points. Even when they played Florida, they gave up 17 points. They've held everyone under 20 this season except for South Carolina, which they let up exactly 20 points. So it's hard to even blame that loss on the defense, especially when Jake Fromm throws a pick in the fourth quarter that sets up South Carolina good field position. So when we look at this Georgia team, all their problems, all their issues I have with them, and them being number 4 right now, exclusively come from their offense. Well, I think their defense is absolutely on fire right now. And Bo Nix has shown that, yeah, he can torch Ole Miss. It was at Ole Miss? No, that was last week where he did not torch Ole Miss.
He didn't torch Ole Miss. He torched Arkansas.
He torched Mississippi
State, yeah.
Can torch, I don't know, we can torch Arkansas, right? But that's really it. I mean, you put a real defense in front of him, and he's been scared. And Florida, like I said, Florida put the playbook out on Auburn. You load the box, make sure they can't establish a run game, make Bo Nix throw the ball, and with Georgia's defense both up front and in their secondary, I think it's going to be really tough. So I lean Georgia here -2.5.
All right.
Let me put 10 on that, just because I did. Again, it's like
that was great analysis. So you should put 10 on it.
Okay.
Yeah, great analysis. I love that from you, Will.
Are you changing your pick?
No, I'm not going to change my pick. Okay. I'm sticking with Auburn. I think what's going to happen is
get you to change a pick. I thought I almost had you on Navy. That game is that's becoming my favorite game of the week now.
I can't wait to type in LMAO, bro, just like I did last time. But what's going to end up happening because the world is in disarray is Auburn's going to beat Georgia and then lose to Alabama, and Alabama's going to be number 4 team in the country. We're going to have to watch Alabama play a game against Ohio State or LSU. Hopefully they'd play them against Ohio State as the number 1 team, and Ohio State would beat them so bad. It would be hilarious. It'd be laughable. It'd be like Ohio State might beat Alabama by as much as they're going to beat Rutgers by this week, Will.
It's possible. Let's get into it.
This is the Super Bowl, so there's no Canes game this week. Brought to you by Canes Insight, Canes Wear, all that fun stuff.
Well, do it. This is it.
This is it? Oh, hang on. I got to get the ad up then. I don't actually have the ad in front of me. All right. This episode's brought to you by Canes Wear. I don't have it in front of me. I can't find it, Will.
Do you know what the money line is for Rutgers to win this game?
Is there one?
Yeah, it's plus 225,000.
Let's put $1 on it.
When we see plus 250, we're like, oh, that's good odds right there. This is plus 225,000.
Should we put $1 on it?
Yeah. There's your money line play right there.
I mean, hey, it's like Evansville beating Kentucky. It could happen. Ohio State is a 52.5-point favorite. The over-under is set at 61.5. I'm on the over with 20, and I'm on Ohio State minus 52.5 with 20. Ohio State just beat Maryland so bad. My favorite thing was Ohio State beat Maryland 71-14, and Maryland beat Rutgers, 41-7 or something like that. This is going to be, the only way, and plus you have to look at it this way. Ohio State goes into last week's game ranked number 1. They come out of last week's game ranked number 2 after dominating. What's the all-time record? 222-0 by Georgia Tech. Let's go, Ohio State. Let's set a new record. Let's do it. You know what? You're playing a D1 Big Ten team. That's $20. Rutgers is not scoring in this football game.
Yeah, and even if they do, like even the score against Maryland, which Maryland ended up scoring 2 touchdowns, that the difference there is 57. Yeah. So that still covers this minus 52.
Yeah.
So
this is Vegas couldn't make big enough of a line. This is like when Miami plays Savannah State, except Rutgers might be worse than Savannah State. They're so bad.
And Ohio State might be better than Miami.
Might be. Don't say things like that, Will. You have 20 on both.
They haven't played this season yet. Yeah, I'll go 20 with it. I mean, I've been riding Ohio State pretty much all season, even in their one loss. They're 8-1 against the spread. This is the Super Bowl. This is the game of the week. Tune in. It's gonna be fun. You want it. You want some fun? Ride with the -52.
Do it. It's so great. Do you have the over or no?
I don't want to touch that.
Okay. Yeah, they're gonna kill this team. It's gonna be so funny.
It's I'm so excited. -52 right now.
Yeah. Oh, it's -52.
Taking that half point back.
Do it. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And the other thing is too, like we could have -50. I mean, if they are up 56-0, we just need one more touchdown. Ohio State's going to score 9 touchdowns against Rutgers. Like it's just going to happen. They might score 10 or 11 touchdowns against Rutgers. This has the potential to be very, very ugly without them even meaning to. Like that's kind of how it looked against Maryland. They looked like they called the dogs off, and then Maryland still kept letting them score. And Maryland lost by 40 points to Rutgers. Or I mean, Maryland beat Rutgers by 40 points. This is going to be the best hour. This is going to be the best 3 hours of your weekend. Whatever you're doing on Saturday, be planted in front of a TV.
This over is looking so juicy, but when I hop on,
do it. Will we're going to change the luck somehow? What better way to do it than with Rutgers?
I just feel that whenever I hop on, it's 0 for like 15.
We're about to make it 1 for 15.
But then that would if the over doesn't hit, then I really worry about the spread. So I feel like I might be cursing both bets.
You doing it?
Give me 10.
10. All right, I'll do it. All right. What do you got next? I got like 2 games that I really think I should bet. Maybe 3. What do you have next? I want to see if you bring up any of the games that I have, and maybe you can talk me into actually going through with these.
I feel like this Virginia Tech team has really turned the corner.
You talked me into it already. So that was one of my bets, dude.
So there we go. I mean, again, this is don't worry, people. I've got dogs coming up. But this here, Virginia Tech, I said this. I think I had them in one of these. I had them in the Notre Dame game, and you had Notre Dame, and I told you that Virginia Tech. This isn't your Furman scare Virginia Tech team. Yeah. This is the team that beat Miami on the road. This is the team that beat UNC, that lost to Notre Dame by a point, and that pretty handily beat Wake Forest 2 weekends ago. Or was that last weekend? That was last weekend.
Yeah. Killed them.
So yeah.
This is the team that's going to be the reason Miami doesn't win the Coastal.
There's a lot of teams that could
no, but this is going to be the team that wins the Coastal. That's what I'm saying. I think this is the team that wins the Coastal, and they might win it with 3 losses.
Wins it.
Yeah, they might win it with 3 losses, but they will beat Miami on the tiebreaker, and it'll be Virginia Tech who wins the Coastal. They only have 2 losses in the Coastal.
Yeah, and look, Georgia Tech is a team that has also kind of improved. So I mean,
they get under a touchdown.
They had a solid game against Virginia, but Virginia Tech, it's 5.5 right now. So I gotta roll. I gotta roll with the Hokies here.
I got 15 on it. What do you have?
Type
it in. I see you in here. Type it in.
Give me 10.
Okay. Yeah, I like this one though. It's less than a touchdown. It just feels light to me.
It just feels like my worry here is that Georgia Tech is at home, and they might I don't know. It's like they're also improving too. Like maybe the Coastal isn't as bad as we think, and Virginia Tech, they could regress to what we saw earlier in the season. I don't know.
Yeah,
it worries me a little bit. It's not. This is not a $20 bet for sure. And if I had to pick between 10 and 15, I'll play the safer side. I don't want to lose all my money now that I'm over $300.
Oh, see, I'm not even playing. I'm on a loan, so I'm just gonna keep going. I'm still keeping track of how much I'm down, but I need to I need to get out of it. Yeah. What do you have next? Because you talked me into one. I got 3 more written down. If we're on the same page, I'm gonna do them.
So this one's tough for me. I'm probably gonna stay away. I'm leaning West Virginia plus 14. at Kansas State.
Yeah, I got nothing on that one.
The worry is that Kansas State just lost to Texas and that they need the bounce back game. But two touchdowns is a lot here. It just seems like a lot, but they are back home. I'll probably stay away. The next one, this seems like this is a super public bet, but I don't care. Give me Minnesota +3. Like
I want Minnesota money line. I'm just doing Minnesota money line.
You're doing money line.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go +3 just because I could see this being a 1-point game that Iowa somehow wins, because these games are often very, very close. Just because that's the nature of Iowa football. But yeah, they're
Iowa's
underdogs
offense
here.
is not very good.
Yeah,
their offense struggled so bad, and because of that, like what I saw from Minnesota's offense last week is like they score.
Yeah, they do. So I'm let me go 15 here on +3. I just like that we're getting points.
I'm just doing 10 on the money
line. And this is just.
And like they just had their biggest win of the season, but they know that they still got to play Iowa and Wisconsin. And I think if their slip-up's going to happen, it's going to happen against Wisconsin, not this week, because I think Wisconsin's a better football team than Iowa. And I think Minnesota's defense is going to have an easy time against Iowa's offense. They're going to have trouble slowing down Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and I've said it a bunch. It wasn't a fluky win. Like they really did handle Penn State, and that has me feeling confident about the team as a whole. And I was ragging on Minnesota earlier this season because they were undefeated, yet they, beat South Dakota by a touchdown. They beat Fresno by a field goal. They beat Georgia Southern by a field goal. And that all sounds terrible. But when you look at what they've been able to do lately, let's take October and onward. They beat Illinois 40-17, and Illinois has shown to be no slouch. Illinois getting wins over Wisconsin and Nebraska this season. They beat Nebraska 34-7. They beat Rutgers 42-7. They beat Maryland 52-10. And I know those three teams are jokes, but they have shown that they can. They're blowing out the joke teams just like Michigan blows out the joke teams.
Yep.
And then they go on. They're at home, but they beat Penn State, who has shown they're a pretty darn good football team too. And like I said, they really dominated that from start to finish. I was looking for the spark. I had Penn State. I'm like, they're going to come back. This is the energy. It was no. Like Minnesota was all over it. So I got to like getting points here.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's exactly what the Canes team with Rozier didn't do, where like they would beat these bad teams barely, and it was always these nail biters. This Minnesota team is beating who they're supposed to beat really badly, which is what good football teams do.
Later in the season, they did kind of do the nail biting against the non-con.
Yeah, you're right.
But they've gotten better. Like this is a team that's improved. Just like I said with Virginia Tech, and just like with Miami, like Miami has gotten better over the course of the season.
They were a week too late. They beat Georgia Tech. Miami went to Coastal. All right, I got 2 Big 12 dogs written down on my sheet right now. So far, you have agreed with me on 2 bets, and I've gone with them. Do you have Big 12 dogs coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is another one that's super public, but I think Baylor here is probably the strong play.
Yeah, I only have 10 on it just in case like Oklahoma woke up after last week. But wow, Oklahoma cannot hold a lead this year. Like their defense like starts off fine and then just blows it. And last week was so frightening. I mean, they were dominating that football game. It was a 42-21, and they almost lost it. And I think Baylor has surprised some teams. I think Baylor, very much like Minnesota, has surprised some teams. I don't think Baylor wins this game, but it's in Baylor. And this goes back to exactly what happened with Minnesota last week. It's like the biggest game Baylor's had since RG3 was there. And I think they're going to be pumped up for it. I think they might get out to an early lead, and then Jalen Hurts will eventually take over and they'll win the game. But I think that they keep this within 10. I like getting double digits here.
Yeah, this worries me. This might be one of those games where Oklahoma is just like realizes what they have in front of them, and a potential win on the road at Baylor. Like this is a juicy spot to build up their resume. They're still in the playoff conversation. They can still win the Big 12, and everyone's talking Baylor, and we've kind of forgotten that Oklahoma is a perennial playoff contender who has been there, who expects to be there. And so 10 points is a little high, but I almost lean Oklahoma to cover this. And they haven't instilled any confidence lately, especially with that Iowa State game. But it just seems like one of those spots where they can get up for their big games. Because you look at the Kansas State loss, that wasn't a big game. Iowa State, that's not a big game. But when they have had, like, they've played in these big moments. So I don't know. Like, this one I'm stuck on. I see Baylor being a pretty strong play because you're getting 10 points. When I do think Baylor has a chance to win, I think that is fully within the realm of possibility. But when we look at what Baylor has done recently, they haven't been all that impressive.
But they keep winning. And I think that's why I lean Baylor here, is just because of the magnitude of this football game and the fact that they've won all those little games. I think they get up for this one, and then eventually they'll get beat. And I think they lose this game, but I think they're just up for it because they've gotten this far. And now you don't have to look ahead to anything else. This is your Super Bowl. This is like, if we win this, we can win. We'll win the Big 12, and we'll go play in the Big 12 championship, and we can possibly play for the the college football playoff. And I think that this is everything you've been working towards, which is exactly what happened with Minnesota last week. It was everything you've been working for all season, and now you finally get to prove it. And I think that they just prove it this week. Not that they're going to win, but I think that they prove it. So I like them to cover.
I mean, I might be falling into the same exact trap I fell into last week, where I took Penn State -6.5 because Minnesota hadn't played anybody, and that, yeah, they're undefeated, but their wins haven't been that impressive, and that they've eked out victories against teams that they should be beating. But I think what I made this point earlier, Minnesota, their close wins came earlier in the season, and then they've now gotten it together and blown out the teams they're supposed to blow out. That's not the case with Baylor whatsoever. You look at their last game, TCU goes to overtime. They eke out that win. West Virginia, they win 17-14. And yeah, that was a weekday kind of a snoozer. But still, West Virginia is a team you should be able to blow out. Texas Tech, that's another one that goes into overtime. Iowa State, they win by 2 points. I just, there's a chance here that Baylor isn't like they're undefeated and then they aren't that good. I think, and just because Minnesota was able to do it doesn't mean that Baylor will be able to. And so my gut is telling me that Oklahoma is going to find a way to not only win but to cover this point spread and really win easily. And this is more of a gut thing. You have Jalen Hurts, who has played in so many big games. He's played in the college football playoffs. This moment is not too big for Oklahoma, and I think they just whatever. I mean, they're sitting at 8-1, and I think a lot of people are writing them off, and it seems like this is a prime spot for Oklahoma to kind of wake everyone else up and be like, "Hey, we're still here."
Yeah, they haven't moved up at all in the rankings, and they're sitting in a spot where they have to win some games. So,
yeah, I think give me 10 on Oklahoma -10. It's just
you want to type it in since you're in there?
No, you can do it.
No, my hand hurts.
I said I was going to have all these underdogs, and I'm kind of
you just don't
off. Like
that's why I thought you'd have Texas +7 going to Iowa State.
Maybe
you don't like it. Do you like it? Because otherwise, I'm not going to take it unless you have it.
I considered it. It's no, I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it either. I was thinking about it, and then I ended up cutting off none of my bets. So I'm done with bets, Will.
Oh wow, okay.
How many you have left?
Let me jump. I'm messing around with some stuff. Like I said, I didn't have everything laid out. Oh, we want to go another favorite. Give me 20 on LSU -21. That's just easy money. That's just money in the bank right there. Yeah, Ole Miss is at home here. Yeah, LSU just had their big game against Alabama. Yeah, they're number 1. They might get complacent, but this is 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's there's nothing I've seen that has shown me this should be within 3 touchdowns. Nothing. Like what I've seen from Joe Burrow, what I've seen that offense would do to Alabama, who is
Well,
historically
Alabama's an incredible football team.
Great defensive team usually. But even what they've done to Auburn in Florida and Texas, like they've handled every test. And in many of those games, the score is not indicative of what they've done to these teams. Alabama being the latest example of that. And that might be an argument against the 21-point spread, but this is an Ole Miss team that
very good.
that flirted with Auburn for a little bit, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to. I don't know. Is that it? Like they played Auburn close, so they'll play LSU close. I mean, Auburn and LSU are two completely different built football teams. So I have to maybe give me 15 on this, but I like it. I really do like. This is becoming the week of favorites here.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing. I mean, my week's already over, and I have 1, 2, 3. I got 5 dogs, so that's actually pretty good. I got 5 dogs. You have 1.
Yeah, I've got 1, but I got a couple more coming.
We'll get them out here, man, because I'm already done.
Let's go. I'm flirting with this one. There's a couple I'm flirting with.
Stop flirting.
I can't. I'm too.
You're so smooth.
DNA. I'm gonna go UCLA plus 21 here.
They've looked so much better in recent weeks, man.
UCLA really talking about teams that have turned the corner and that are different from what they looked like at the beginning of the season. UCLA is a prime example of that, and Utah is a team that doesn't usually. I know they have this season on, I think, one occasion with who'd they just blow out? Oregon State and Cal, I guess. But this isn't a Utah team that is very much into running up the score. They run the ball a ton. So 21 points, that's a big number. So give me UCLA plus 21. I'll put 15 on that. There's your dog.
Yeah, and UCLA has looked so much better recently with their win over Colorado, Arizona State, Stanford. Yeah, like they've just looked so much better than they did when we watched that dreadful Arizona football game.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that, they've really kind of, they're looking better. And Utah is coming off a bye, so is UCLA, but I think that affects Utah more. But hey, if we watched the NFL this past week, we saw what two teams coming off a bye, what can happen when one is bad and one is considered great when the Falcons destroyed the New Orleans Saints. So things can happen when you have a bye. And again, I keep calling it a Super Bowl, but we are at that point of the year where teams don't really have much to play for. But UCLA is still in the hunt for a bowl game, which is unbelievable to think about. They're 4-5. And an upset over Utah to put you at 5 wins.
They're still alive in the Pac-12 South, believe it or not. And if they can beat Utah, yeah, and UCLA, they're on a 3-game winning streak. This is just a spot where, I think Utah wins, but 3 touchdowns just seems like an awful lot of points.
Yeah. All right, man. What else you got?
Another one. This is another dog that I was messing around with. South Carolina plus 11 on the road against A&M. And A&M has been okay lately, but I don't know, 11 points? 11 points? Do you have any read on this game? It seems like South Carolina is capable of
Public is all over A&M. So I think your read is right. They are all over A&M.
It just seems like South Carolina, when they lose, I don't know.
It's what the problem is?
A little bit of a game. Like, remember that Florida game where they were like in it and then they kind of lost?
Well, this is the problem, Will. I think why the public is all over A&M and not Carolina has nothing to do with A&M. It has everything to do with, since the Georgia game, South Carolina has covered once. And I'm betting that after that Georgia game, we know the public was very much on South Carolina going into Florida. They were very much on them against Tennessee. They're losing a lot of – the public has lost money on South Carolina. And so I think they're looking at this as, forget them. We're going all in on Texas A&M because it's the whole, if you lose to a one team one week, you then bet against that team the next week and then you lose because you're just overreacting. And I think that this has been a couple weeks now where South Carolina has looked really, really bad and has probably cost a lot of just random bettors. Like, South Carolina beat Georgia. Why can't they beat this team? It's cost a lot of those people a lot of money, and I think that's why this is 11. So I like your read here.
Yeah, it's not something I love because I don't really like South Carolina all that much. It just seems like a very high number. Like this jumped out. Like, why is this double digits? Why is this plus 11?
I
What has
agree.
Texas A&M really done? I don't love it, but give me 10 on
Okay.
the Gamecocks.
Okay. And do you have any others, Will?
Flirting with another favorite. If we want to go back to the favorite pool, this was a favorite. Let me see. How many bets do I have? I'm just rattling these things off here.
Yeah, you're killing it.
But I've got money to play with. So, and like I said, that Bowling Green game, that's bankrolling me for these later picks. I think so. Last week I was on Cincinnati, right? And it was
they killed him.
I had like minus 35 or something. And that was a pretty easy win. And Cincinnati, for me, is still a team that I think can really blow out a team. And they're playing South Florida this week, and it's only at 14. So that's one I kind of like. So give me 15 on Cincinnati to cover the 14. Cincinnati right now is your G5 New Year's Bowl team. And I think they're only, what are they ranked? 17th, 18th or something? Like they're not very high, but they are 8-1 with their only loss being to Ohio State. So they're kind of in that spot where they can't really lose, or they lose that precious New Year's Six Bowl. So this is a spot where South Florida, they're not playing for all that much. I guess bowl eligibility is still on the table, but getting a win here I don't think is very likely. So like they're, I guess USF's best one's BYU, but BYU's kind of falling apart.
Yeah,
so
they don't count anymore.
Is there any other team they've really taken it to? I mean, East Carolina is not terrible. But yeah, I mean, Cincinnati just has way more on the line, and they have way more talent. So give me the Bearcats.
Got them.
All right,
already put it in.
It's gonna wrap it up.
That was the Will show at the end there. The last 4 bets, all Will.
Wow, we got a lot.
We do. We have the same amount each.
Let's rattle them off.
All right. Well, we both already got Miami, Ohio minus 17. So good job, Will. Congrats.
Wait, what? Oh yeah. Sorry,
they beat Bowling Green.
You said it as I think of that as the Bowling Green game.
My bad.
Of course, we bet against Bowling Green, but I like. Okay, that worried me. But yeah, go on.
You're welcome. I got UNC plus 4, Alabama minus 17.5, Florida minus 7, Penn State minus 14.5, Michigan minus 13.5, Navy plus 7.5, lock of the week, Auburn plus 2.5, Auburn money line, Ohio State minus 52, Rutgers, Ohio State over 61.5, Virginia Tech minus 5.5, Minnesota money line, and Baylor plus 10.
All right, I got Bama minus 17.5, Michigan minus 13.5, Notre Dame minus 7, lock of the week. What a joke. Who would take Navy? This is going to be a blowout, Phil. I'm telling you. Got Georgia minus 2.5. Reluctant favorite there, but I really feel like I talked myself into that one.
You did.
Ohio State minus 52. I got the over in the Rutgers Ohio State game, 61.5. Got Virginia Tech minus 5.5. Got Minnesota plus 3. There's your dog barking. Oklahoma minus 10. Another one where I wanted to take the dog, but I think Oklahoma really does find a way to win that and cover. LSU minus 21. UCLA plus 21. There's your dog. South Carolina plus 11. Rough. Cincy minus 14.
I love that. Rough on the Gamecocks. All right, man, that's it. That's going to do it. No Miami game this week. We got FIU next week, and we'll talk all about that one. But until then, Will, you got anything left you want to say?
No, that's it. Go listen on iTunes and like us and subscribe and leave good reviews. 5 stars everywhere. Woohoo. We're making money 3 weeks straight, at least for me.
It. I went 6-1 last week. That's the only week that matters.
You're amazing.
Short-term memory, baby.
Let's do it.